Ya estamos.
Okay. Hello, Rayde. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Could you make a presentation of yourself? I mean, how long have you been involved in the sports business, your previous experience, etc.?
Okay, good afternoon. I'm really thankful of the invitation. Rayde Baez. I'm from Dominican Republic, and I've been in the sports industry for almost a decade now. Before that, I was in the finance and banking industry, and since about almost 10 years now, I decided to jump to sports management and sports marketing.
Okay, let me continue a little bit with the same topic. Why did you choose this sector, and why did you think that you could be successful in this sector?
Well, basically, it was a decision based on passion. At the point that I took the decision to switch industries, was a very interesting point from at least that's how I see it. I was in the middle of the financial crisis almost a decade ago, and I decided to follow my passion. And I've always been involved in sports, practicing, and also as a family matter. And then I saw the opportunity and actually jumped into to the sports sector. And I did it with the conviction that at least until that point in my life, I had never met someone that could explain from a rational point of view all the business topics that were surrounding sports. Mainly at that point, what I was seeing through other friends' experiences was that sports was much more about the predilection or the preference of the people involved, and not a rational business oriented decision making process. Let's say.
Great. Which was your path toward the sports sponsorship?
Basically, opportunity. Coming from business, one of the main pillars of any business sports business organization was sponsorship. So I actually my first opportunity to go into the business was with EuroLeague basketball, and was precisely at the sponsorship department. Even though before I did some small events in which I had to also run sponsorship programs around it. But basically, that was the opportunity that lay ahead. I mean, I was very clear that I wasn't going to be on the technical side, let's say, on the sports side, and sponsorship is on par with the TV and media rights. Sponsorship is one of the most important business verticals in the industry.
Okay, thank you. Previously already mentioned it, EuroLeague basket. So what were the main sponsorship objectives of EuroLeague, and maybe which results were accomplished during your time there? If you could maybe explain it a little bit, it would be great.
Indeed, I mean, EuroLeague was a very successful competition. The point that I arrived there, it had actually more than a decade of existence then, and the main sponsorship objectives were very much in line with the political nature of the EuroLeague, in terms that EuroLeague is a competition that is a private competition that is owned by the teams that compete in it, and that poses some advantages and some disadvantages. I mean, one of the main challenges that you can find is that there's a very diverse ownership structure, not only in terms of the different teams, which are the 11 teams, but the markets they represent. So each market has its own economic dynamics and so on. So one of our main tasks was to find a way in which we needed to kind of have a homogeneous structure in terms of what we are selling, so that we can be able to deliver what we sold consistently across the markets. So that was the first challenge. And then the second challenge was the appeal and the marketability of the product itself. So we were actually very much focused from the sponsorship sales department and the brand department into actually creating the platforms and the opportunities that would allow us to compete on the international level. From the moment I arrived there to the moment I left, almost 2 years ago, the marketing team did a great job as we actually tripled the sponsorship volumes, and in general, the whole property grew exponentially in that. So from ticketing, from media rights, and from actually the content production of branch of the competition, we actually transformed the way the property was being carried out to the fans and to the corporate world.
Great, thanks. Regarding WWP or WWP, we would like to know a little bit more about your agency. What are the main objectives of WWP? Or WWP is WWP, no?
Yeah, I mean, you can name it as you want. In German, people call it WWP, so yeah, it's fair to say WWP as well in English. So basically, yeah, I mean, right now we are in the middle of our 30th anniversary. WWP actually, and the name WWP stands for Berater, Wenzel, and Partner. And it's significant, even though it's complex to actually try to say it quickly. It's significant because our founders were high-class athletes. So Artie Berater was a world champion in downhill ski, and his wife, Hani Wenzel, was our Olympic champion in downhill ski. And then we have another owner, which is called Borger Hommel, which is one of the pioneers in the sports business, in winter sports and in motorsports as well. So actually, the agency was founded out of the necessity that certain athletes, top alpine athletes, had in terms of having a professionalized management service that would allow them to not only live off prize money but also generate endorsement money. And to make the long story short, those people were Harty, Hani, and Burger. They actually fought for the skiers, and they got the right from the FIS, the International Ski Federation. So the skiers could have, for the first time, their own sponsors. And the first right or asset that they were able to exploit were the helmets. And the way they did it is via the connection with the motorsports industry. They brought the main Formula One sponsors towards the winter sports scene, so they could extend their marketing and communication throughout the winter period. Right? You know, Formula One is mainly a summer sport, so that was the beginning of it. And from the beginning, the purpose of WWP is actually to service brands, world-class brands, and world-class athletes, and world-class properties in actually delivering the best communication they can deliver around sport and around sponsorship. And that's what we do until today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me continue a little bit with you already started with the topic about or WWP, as we said before. You worked on both sides for a big competition. Right now, you are working for a big agency. In your opinion, what would be the difference working in one side and then on the other side?
Actually, if you do as an agent your job well, there's no difference. And this applies the same if you're talking about a brand, because what you are trying to do, or what you should strive to do, is to actually be able to create, nurture, and manage the correct narrative of the partnership. And the narrative is not only based on whatever the brand wants to communicate or whatever the brand can communicate through a certain property, but actually creating that specific narrative that fits across, right? So as an agency, I come with the mentality of a property because of my personal background, and that was the way we approached sponsorship when I was at the EuroLeague, in terms of being able to create a tailor-made message for the brands and their consumers, linking it through our audience. So I wouldn't say that there was a difference, but we are basically, let's say, that three sides of the same triangle: the brand, the agency, and the property.
All right, great.
Great. Which kind of sponsorship services could an agency like WWP offer?
I mean, we call it 360, but I think that everyone else calls it 360. But what we do is that, and it depends on what are the needs of the client, and the client for us can be either a brand or a property, depending on what is the engagement, right? But depending on that, we can go from the perspective of the market in terms of identifying the correct partners for that property or that brand, creating the tool set, the appropriate tool set for those partnerships to be able to be executed and accountable in terms of KPIs and return measurement and so on. We also take care of the day-to-day management of those partnerships. So we take care of the reporting, and we take care even of renewal negotiations or original contract negotiations. So we do basically everything. And what we are trying to do now is to add different competencies to what the agency can do for the clients. I mean, we have a specific digital division, we have a specific events division, a specific gaming division, and so on.
Okay, perfect. You already mentioned winter sports. That's because of the tradition and the core business of your company. Later, you mentioned Formula One. So maybe on the global level, which kind of partnerships is the WWP looking for?
I mean, to that point, I mean, we actually go out and look whatever the client needs. I mean, we recently helped a major financial services brand to close a major football deal in the Premier League, and also an NBA deal with a jersey sponsorship of an NBA team. So for us, we must say that we are agnostic in terms of the distance. Is whatever there's a plane that can take us, I think we can do our job there. But always coming back to the concept that we are able to do perfect deals in if we do the homework correctly. So we create the correct narrative, and for that, as a testament of that, we have several long-standing partnerships, like the official safety car of MotoGP, which has been there for almost 2 decades. It's a deal that was created and has been managed from day one by WWP. And that's the type of deal that if we can say what type of deal we want long-lasting deals that actually produce return for both parties.
Thanks. Regarding Spain, how are you transforming the global partnerships on the local national level here in Spain?
This is a good question. For us, Spain, and for me specifically as is the market, one of the markets that I oversee, is that what we are trying to do is to export Spain sports. Let's say that we see a lot of potential for football mainly, and basketball secondly, of top sports properties in Spain, that we see that we can build for them great opportunities in other markets, be it Asia, the rest of Europe, or mainly the American region, the American continent. So I would say that that is the focus. So for us, it's not just a matter of finding local deals or as I call it, quick fixes that you know they're good. You know, you get a commission, but the idea is to actually build partnerships that allow certain properties that have that possible trajectory of being global icons to actually develop those markets they reach and to find suitable partnerships there. So that's mainly where I'm focusing my efforts these days.
Great, really interesting. You were already mentioning the magic word or the magic phrase sponsorship activation. What do you think about the importance of media and media communication in sponsorship activation?
Still is and will continue to be important. I don't know in which shape or form. Probably what we are seeing now in the market is that probably it's not about live broadcasting, but rather highlights or multi-platform engagement. But definitely you need an interface between whatever you're producing as a sports property and whatever the fans are consuming. It is essential, and not only for awareness, because usually what top properties want is big brands that can sponsor them, and usually those big brands that can sponsor them are great brands that don't need awareness, or pretty much is the other way around. There are brands that probably properties should be paying to be able to say that they are partners of those brands, right? So what is the reality right now in the global market is that media is forever greener right now. I mean, it's almost impossible to escape content in any platform, in any device. So it's just a matter of finding the correct narrative and finding the correct packaging of that content. And once you nail that as a suitable solution for your property, you start discovering opportunities, partnership opportunities, because the medium and the message are the ones that define how you activate or engage those audiences, right?
Thanks, Fleury. And what do you think about the importance of brand ambassadors? Advantages, disadvantages?
I think actually it's funny because people tend to focus on major properties, but we almost forget that what makes football clubs like Barcelona or Real Madrid or Liverpool relevant is the stars that are playing at that specific moment. That said, there's a historical nature on certain sports brands, which they carry legacy. But if you look at it from the media perspective, and it's the way that you need to look at it, you actually need to acknowledge that the relevancy and the concurrency of certain stars that are playing in a certain sport in a certain team are the ones that make that property relevant. That said, I'm of the belief that if a brand is serious about sponsorship, they need to have a multi-tiered approach in which at certain levels you can decide even if you want league or club, but definitely you need ambassadors at any level that you decide on top, right? So I say that is key because of a mere and simple human quality, which is that those athletes that you contract as ambassadors, they make your message credible. They make the story real for the fans and for the ones that aspire to be like them or just admire them for what they do. So, but with that, there are certain challenges, and the advantage is clear. I mean, you can have your message be delivered more on point and more directly to the audience through that ambassador, but you peg yourself to how that ambassador carries on with his life. So you have certain morality challenges, certain hazards that you can face if your ambassador is not a representative of the values of your brand. So that could be a disadvantage.
Okay. We already mentioned it a little bit. We already started previously with the traditional media, with the conventional media. Right now, we are speaking a little bit about the brand ambassadors. What do you think? Which role plays in the world, like in this whole world, the social media? Is it an valuable asset or it is an absolute must nowadays? What do you think?
I mean, I probably is because I'm of the generation that I am. I don't see social media as a different set of media. So I mean, technically, I'm a millennial. I'm from the '82 year. Although I'm every day I consider myself as a grandpa millennial, let's say, because everything goes really, really fast. But I would say that the media it's diverse and it's complex and it's as diverse as every person that has a media outlet in his hands, which is a mobile phone or a tablet or a laptop. So it is a great asset. Although to this day, I don't see no one has cracked how that could be exploited to the maximum level. But now more than ever, you have the advantage to communicate directly on a one-to-one basis with the fans and with the audience and with your consumers. And then whatever lies in the middle is all of this that we've been talking about: the sponsorship, the narrative, the ambassadors, the properties, and so on. So it is essential now to master digital marketing and digital communication. Moreover, as actually you need a very wide approach into understanding how the media landscape works and how to be able to convey those messages that you want at any given point, at any given device.
Thanks, Rayde. And last but not least, and thank you very much for all the webinar. What would you suggest to students to be successful in the sports sponsorship and sports marketing?
Well, actually, it could sound very counterintuitive what I'm about to say, but I will suggest them to focus less on sponsorship and more on other core competencies. So for right now, and you can see that when you pick up any business journal and you see how different brands, global brands, are developing. If you have great competencies in financial analysis and understand how companies define their objectives, or if you have great competencies in communication and multimedia communication, probably you will be more successful than the rest of us in sports sponsorship, because sponsorship is no longer the result of a factor of different, ticketing allocations or branding assets and so on. It's about communication, and usually to my team and in any other opportunity that I have to talk with other people in the industry, even students, I always say that what we actually need to be cognizant of is that we are in the communication business, and sponsorship is just a fraction or a small piece of the whole communication and marketing mix of brands. So if you don't understand brands or corporate strategy, you will do a lousy job doing sponsorship. You could get lucky and close a couple of deals, but to be able to work with the best brands on a sustainable basis throughout the years, you need to be more of a corporate strategy than to actually a sponsorship salesman.
Great. Thank you very much, Rayde. And it's a pleasure for us, and see you soon here in the classrooms, maybe.
I look forward to it. It's a pleasure, and next time I promise we'll do it live.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is really like it will be a great experience for our students to see and to hear your own experience. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, guys. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.